This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. Oil prices ticked up on Friday as U.S. officials appeared close to striking a debt ceiling deal, and as the market weighed conflicting messages on supply from Russia and Saudi Arabia ahead of the next OPEC Plus policy meeting. Brent crude settled 69 cents, or 0.9%, higher at $76.95 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate closed up 84 cents, or 1.2%, at $72.67 a barrel. On a weekly basis, both benchmarks posted a second week of gains with Brent climbing 1.7%, while WTI rose 1.6%.
Russia is leaning towards leaving oil production volumes unchanged ahead of an OPEC Plus policy meeting on June 4 because Moscow is content with current prices and output, three sources with knowledge of current Russian thinking told Reuters. OPEC Plus surprised the market on April 2 with further output cuts that pushed up the price of oil. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that energy prices were approaching economically justified levels. Putin's point man on oil, Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak, said on Thursday that he didn't expect new steps from OPEC+.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Asian spot liquefied natural gas, LNG, prices have weakened for the fifth consecutive week on muted demand due to healthy stocks, remaining at their lowest level in 2 years. The average LNG price for July delivery into Northeast Asia LNG was down 3% from the previous week at $9.50 per million British thermal units, MMBTU, the lowest since early May 2021, industry sources estimated. North Asia remains largely void of demand. Prices have continued to walk down week on week and support hasn't been helped by Japanese utilities selling into an already weak market, said Toby Copson, global head of trading at Trident LNG.
The U.S. oil and gas rig count fell by 44 this month, the biggest drop in 3 years. After energy firms this week cut rigs for a fourth week in a row, energy services firm Baker Hughes County said in its closely followed report on Friday. The oil and gas rig count, an early indicator of future output, fell by 9 to 711 in the week to May 26, the lowest since May 2022. Baker Hughes said that puts the total rig count down by 16, or 2%, below this time last year. U.S. oil rigs fell by 5 to 570 this week, their lowest since May 2022, while gas rigs dropped by 4 to 137, their lowest since March 2022.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
Steel rebar prices in China hit their lowest in 3 years this week, underscoring flagging growth in the world's second-largest economy, particularly in its weak property sector. The spot price of HRB 420mm steel rebar, used to reinforce concrete for buildings and infrastructure, fell to 3,510 yuan, $507.80 per ton in Shanghai on Thursday, data from consultancy My Steel showed. That's the lowest since April 2020, when the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in China had curbed most industrial activity.
Gold gave up some gains on Friday and was on course for a third straight weekly loss on the likelihood of a last-minute debt ceiling deal and as a hotter-than-expected U.S. inflation gauge raised bets for rates to stay higher for longer. Spot gold was up 0.1% at $1,943.12 per ounce by 1:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 1740 GMT, having risen as much as 0.9% in the session. U.S. gold futures settled mostly flat at $1,944.30. The White House and congressional Republicans aim to put the final touches on a deal to raise the debt ceiling for 2 years. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. A deal allowing the safe wartime export of grain and fertilizer from Ukrainian Black Sea ports has not yet resumed full operations, the United Nations said on Friday, having come to a halt before Russia's decision last week to extend it. The pact, called the Black Sea Grain Initiative, brokered by the United Nations and Turkey last July with Russia and Ukraine to try to ease a global food crisis aggravated by Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, covers 3 ports, but no ships have been authorized to travel to Pivdeni, Yuzhny, port since April 29, the UN said.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.